Hi YouTube, Art here again with another audio video, and in today's video we are talking about the blog post that just went up about Black Ops 6 audio. Before we get into it, I just did want to thank you guys for all of the love on the main guide. Now that we're coming to an end with MW3, I have almost 1 million views on that video, and that's insane. I never thought I would be somebody that is so watched on YouTube, so I thank you guys so much. It has been such a cool experience, and I couldn't have done it without your support. And it's also kind of crazy to see all of this that we're about to dive into being mostly about spatial audio, which in my opinion was always such a strong thing, and we've been emulating that with my tune for the last year now. So it's kind of hard. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's kind of hard not to feel like we influenced this a little bit with the tune. So it's really cool to see that. They've put in way more work than I ever could at the base level, and they have way more years of audio experience than I do. So it's gonna be really cool to see what they're doing. So let's go ahead and jump right in. It's titled Audio Innovations, and they break down a bunch of stuff that's gonna be changing with the next title. In the first paragraph here, they're just kind of going over all of the things that they're going to cover and what their intentions are. They credit some of the designers. I'll link this article down in the description below. And it seems like everybody working on this is super experienced. I don't really have a lot of experience with the Treyarch title. I only barely remember Cold War, but we'll have to see. The first section is the adaptive battlefield, listen and locate. And they go on to describe that they've redesigned everything with new sound effects for every weapon, but not only that, they are really focused on positioning the sound of somebody shooting exactly where it is. It says here, specifically the team has been laser focused on distant firing sounds, giving players information on directionality, distance, threat levels, so they can more easily identify where enemy operator is firing from and then formulate their plan of counterattack. So that's always a W. More directionality in the audio cues is going to help everybody. The next section they cover is Project Acoustics, taking spatial reverb to the next level. And this is a little bit of the Microsoft influence. So Project Acoustics, as they mention here, in collaboration with Microsoft's Project Acoustics system. So they're borrowing that tech because they got acquired by them. And it's great because the more normalized stuff they use, the better the experience is going to get. Microsoft has way more funds to develop an accurate audio system than Call of Duty ever would, just because of the size of the corporation. They go on to say, we've been working closely with Project Acoustics team to simulate the way sound waves bounce and propagate through the world down to the smallest details. They go on and talk about everything, and then they say, don't take our word for it. Here are some examples. So this first one is
destination marked.
Some voice lines there in the open.
Head for my waypoint.
You can kind of hear the echo there off the buildings.
Set and rally point.
Again, echoes off the walls, and then he gets inside, and you can hear it different in here.
Destination marked.
Right, so there is a difference in all of the different audio qualities there. They also show enemy footsteps. Now, I'll show a tweet here on the screen. It was confirmed by one of the developers that this is boosted audio, so they boosted the footstep level just to show off how good it sounds, and footsteps are going to be about where they were in the second weekend of the beta. Here is their example of spatial footsteps. And that sounds pretty good. So you can hear the main character's footsteps as he walks through, but mainly you can hear that person making their way down the hallway in a way that you would hear it in real life. And I think it sounds really great. Those volumes are pretty high for multiplayer, but like they said in the tweet, it's going to be much more like the beta weekend too. They go on to show here the physics of sound visualized. So they have some visual guides here of a couple of the areas on the Terminus map for zombies, and they show how a sound will propagate through the space, bounce off things, reflect off things. So this tells me that there is going to be an actual 3D map of the world. I've talked about this in other videos, that there's an occlusion map they have for the map that we're on, and it determines what sound can be heard through what. It seems like they have a unified system in Project Acoustics that's going to work really well to make that much more consistent. There will be less times where you hear a bunch of things all at once, even though there's several walls between you. This should make it much more like hearing in real life, or so this blog states. They go on to show another example in a different part of the Terminus map. Again, the sound goes through, and you can see it come through over here and slowly go through the cave because it's leaking through. So there's going to be a lot more accurate transition of audio through spaces, and it should help you identify where people are. This is huge news for console, and I think this is going to lead to a really good bass audio without any extras. Now, that's not to say I won't be working on something. I will, but we'll talk about that in a little bit later. The next section they have is live mixing, prioritizing the most important sounds. And this is a big problem in the current iteration of Call of Duty. There will be things that are just way too loud. You can't really determine the friendly footsteps versus the enemy footsteps, and this is the first thing they address here. They make it clear that they want to make threats like enemies or zombies and zombies a higher priority for audio. There's nothing in this about streaks or the volumes of those things, so who's to know if those will just kind of overbear everything like they currently do, but they do make a mention that they're going to try to emphasize the important sounds that are a threat to the player while making the other sounds a little bit lower. We'll have to see if that affects like the wind noise and the buzzing light noise, all those ambient noises in the world like the ocean. But it does sound like they're moving in the right direction and they're hearing the stuff that we want and the feedback we're giving. And I think it's going to work really well together, especially with Microsoft support for Project Acoustics. Now, this section is pretty cool. This is enhanced headphone mode, greater immersion through HRTF. And they go on to explain what HRTF is. It's head-related transfer function, which is just a really fancy way to say it's a digital replication of how you hear, right? So if I snap my finger over here, it's going to be louder in my right ear than my left ear. And it's also going to take longer to reach my left ear than it's going to take to reach my right ear. My brain is able to do all of that math and tell me, oh, that's coming from over here. They're going to replicate that in game, and that's what we have been doing with my tune. Hisuvi uses HRIRs. HRIRs are HRTFs expressed over time. I know it's really nerdy, but look it up. It is what it is. I'll also include a video about HRTFs and binaural audio down below. That's a great explanation of it, more than I could do in this video. They explain here that it emulates the way sounds are affected by the shape of your head and your ears when you actually hear them. It's the gold standard for maximizing directional perception when you're listening on headphones. And we know that. We've been using the tune for the last year, and so it's really cool to see them fully embrace this. They're doing it with a company called Embody, which I have messed around with Embody's Immerse Hive, which is their like subscription model for directional audio. I messed with it when I was first investigating stuff, and it's pretty cool. Some of it, like the picture that you take to scan your ear in that app, feels a little gimmicky, but I don't have enough experience with it to really speak, but that is the company that they partnered with here. They go on to say it's compatible with any headphone or earbud, and that's true because the big thing about HRTFs, it's mainly about the like how your head impedes the sound from left to right, not so much about the structure of your ear. If you really want to get nerdy, you can dive into that structure of the ear, and they mention that here. So included as part of the game's enhanced headphone mode, so this is going to be a mode that you can switch on or off, is a universal HRTF, which has been specifically created for Call of Duty soundscapes. Now, that might be very true. My guess is that this is going to be an immersive version of the HRTF, which might not be best for competitive, but we'll have to wait and see. The implementation at the game level, though, really has me hoping that we can do quite a bit on the back end because we can experiment with different HRTFs and see what functions the best, what allows me to have some control for competitive purposes, if any. Like I said, we won't know until the game's out. We'll have to see. The most interesting thing here is this line right here. The enhanced headphone mode will be available at Black Ops 6 launch and at the start of Season 1 for Call of Duty Warzone. So that indicates a lot of what they're doing. Season 0, when Black Ops 6 is released, Black Ops 6 is going to have its own audio style, and then Warzone will remain on its current audio style. So the tune that I have that everybody's running, that will still work in Warzone. What I'll try to do as soon as the game gets out is release a quick fix that you guys can switch profiles or something while I work on the real tune, because I'm going to take Season 0, which is, you know, the beginning of Black Ops 6, to just test the crap out of the audio and find and tune the best thing that I can and include those updates that I've been working on across the year, some ways to personalize it for yourselves with your own EQ, and just way more streamlined. And there's also been some updates to Equalizer APO and to Voice Meter, so we'll get into that once the guide is released, but I'm going to take my time and make sure I do a good job. So again, if you didn't catch that, Black Ops 6 multiplayer will have its own audio. I'll try to release a quick fix, and Warzone 3 will still use the tune that we've been running. So make sure you subscribe so you know when I upload that video. Now, the last section here is accessibility support. And the first one is asymmetrical hearing loss. So this has actually been a thing that's come up in appointments for me a lot. There have been people that served in the military or worked with heavy equipment, and they have more hearing loss in their right ear than their left ear, or vice versa. So what they're adding into this is the ability to turn on that asymmetrical hearing compensation, as you can see in this picture here, and then you can adjust the frequencies of the right and left channel. Now you can bring all of those down by like -5, so that will make the right channel quieter, or you can bump them up. It'll make the right channel louder. What this also means is console is going to have an opportunity to actually EQ stuff in the game, because if you increase the value of some of these frequencies on both sides, you're just evenly EQing everything. But as an accessibility feature, this is huge, because I have had a lot of people ask about how do I make it louder in one ear than the other, and I've found ways to do it, but it's always kind of clunky. Having these in-game options are incredible, and I think it's going to help a lot of people out. The fact that we'll be able to EQ the game in-game will just be an added benefit here. The last thing they mention here is reduce tinnitus sound. This has been in there for a long time, so it's making a return. It takes kind of the hate or the harshness off concussion and flash grenades, as they say here. Now, one thing that they mention on the outro here that didn't really get mentioned is the audio mix presets. There's going to be some new ones, as you can see in this image above. They have one called the Treyarch mix here, so I'm sure we'll get to see new ones of that. Different hit marker sound effects and voice chat settings. I wonder if they're going to give directional audio to VoIP, kind of like they do in Tarkov, where you can hear the person kind of where they are. That would be really cool to see. But that's the entire blog. It's really exciting stuff. We'll have to wait to see. I have a feeling it's going to be more immersive than competitive, and we'll still have some work to do. So I'm going to be live the night of the 24th when this releases at 12 p.m. EST or 9 p.m. Pacific. I will be live testing all of the changes, trying to figure out a new tune, seeing what I can do and how things affect everything. There's just so much to test that I've got my work cut out for me. I'll be live over on twitch.tv/art_is_war. And like I said, once I figure out some type of quick fix that will work with the initial settings, I'll get that out in a separate video, and then you guys can expect to see a full tune somewhere between Season 0 and Season 1, where it seems like these audio changes are going to be integrated into Warzone. If you found this interesting, like the video, leave me a comment down below. What do you guys think about all of these settings? Do you think it's going to help? Do you think it's going to be a W? Do you think it's going to be a L? Subscribe and click the bell so you know when I upload another video. And until the next one, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.